They're up on the walking, on the pedestrian bridge.
There we go. Is it a hot flash or is it the climate crisis? That's what we're calling this episode because the world is on fire. And we have with us today my good friend, Chris Gloninger, who he and I co-anchored a thing together called the Climate Report. He is a climate scientist. You may know him as a controversial figure who had an issue in Iowa because people don't want to believe in climate change. And so I reached out to him because I was like, hey, Chris, things seem way worse now than they were 2 years ago. Welcome to America. You got this with a question mark. Lauren, like, I don't know. And Lauren, of course, is joining us on the 1,000 miles to Memphis march. So she's going to fill us in on what's happening there. But first, Chris, is it worse than it was 2 years ago? What's going on? Are we all going to melt?
We're kind of rolling the dice to see if this is going to be the hottest year in recorded history. And if it's not, next year will be. So it's either, that coming down to the finish line to see which one crosses the finish line first. And it looks like this will be the hottest year on record, and next year will be hotter than that. So that is because of the climate crisis and this Godzilla El Niño that's forming in the Pacific Ocean.
Can you tell us what this El Niño thing is? Because I remember like El Niño, like from Chris Farley. Do you remember that, Lauren? El Niño.
It was such a big deal at the time. And I honestly can't remember anything other than that. I don't remember what it is. So I'm really happy to be here for this lesson.
Yeah, so it is warmer than average ocean waters in the Pacific. And I want to find this quote because, and I love that everyone's calling it El Hombre now because it is more than just the boy. It is a full-blown man, this El Nino that is coming our way. And actually the last time we had an El Nino this strong was back in 1877. 1877, and Florence Nightingale, let me get this quote, said, "The more one hears about this famine, the more one feels that such a hideous record of human suffering and destruction the world has never seen before." So that's your uplifting Monday quote. Yes, technology's gotten better. The science has gotten better. We're able to warn, the public that we're expecting extreme weather. But, we're already seeing thousands of people dying across Europe with this heat. So
you said famine. Did you say famine? Lauren, I heard famine. Did you hear famine? I heard famine.
I heard famine.
Bringing that back from the 1800s.
It feels like we're in end times in a lot of ways with climate. And also just generally speaking, gestures around. This feels are we at a point where we can't walk it back? Like now we've gone off the cliff's edge and it can't be pulled back, or is it, where are we?
That's a great question. Like the warming that we're seeing and the amount of carbon that we've released is pretty much baked in. There are ways that we can kind of postpone maybe some of the worst impacts if we do drastically cut carbon dioxide emissions. But, it's funny. We saw on Friday, I think, the CEO and the board from Shell literally ringing the bell at the stock exchange, celebrating their record profits. Meanwhile, in Spokane, Washington, 600 homes burned to the ground, and we're treating this like, it's okay. That's the price we have to pay. Like 600 homes just leveled, like we just saw in the Pacific Palisades, the Eaton Fire, Altadena. Like, this is not okay, but I think we're kind of just saying, yeah, this is the price that we have to pay for our addiction to burning oil, coal, and gas, which as a scientist just makes me just want to slam my head against the wall.
Absolutely. And as somebody, my daughter's school burned in the Palisades Fire. So I'm glad that you brought it up because it reminds me of that quote that's like, and we see it all the time now. It's almost like a meme that the climate crisis is further, it gets closer and closer until you're the one taking the pictures. And I became the person taking the pictures. And so the price that we have to pay, Chris, is that... how do we get to a point where people go, I can't afford that price? Because we can't. Like, I can't afford that price. Did
And
you afford it?
we're pretty close. And it's funny, right? It's that Naked Gun scene where Leslie Nielsen's in front of everything exploding, and he's like, "Everyone disperse, nothing to see here, nothing to see here." That's literally that's our timeline right now. That's our life. But as we see $1 billion disaster in this country every 2.5 weeks, we're going to reach a point where the trillions of dollars of assets that all the fossil fuel industry has, like, these losses are going to eclipse that. And I think that's when people really start waking up, when you can't get insurance for your house anymore, or you're in a state like California or Massachusetts or Florida, where the insurance companies that carry policies in those states, if you want to carry there, then you have to kind of put together this communal fund to cover people who are at high risk. So we benefit from that on Cape Cod, where we can see strong, storms. Same thing in the fire zones in California. But even that, eventually, we're going to bankrupt the system. Our national flood insurance program is, in the whole, billions and billions of dollars. Same thing with the crop insurance program. So we just have this big tab, and we haven't even started paying for it yet. And that's what frightens me, is just going to be the economic downturn driven by the climate crisis.
I have a question to, I guess, not specifically from a science perspective, but I have heard that there are billionaires who are buying property in what could eventually become coastline, like with, and I don't know if this is actually
Put the
verifiable.
tinfoil hat on.
I know, but that part of it, do they know? Are they aware of what's coming down the pipeline, and they're just planning ahead and protecting themselves? But how? There's no protection from this. I just don't understand. I guess that headspace doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, there was a lot of investment, Lauren, in some of the areas that were deemed climate safe zones, or areas that were immune to climate change. And look what happened. Asheville was in USA Today's, it was named a climate haven, and it was, washed away during Hurricane Helene. And then look what happened up in Duluth. There was this huge population boom in Duluth, and now they've been suffocated by the smoke from the Canadian wildfire. So I really don't think that, even if the investments were made to try to be protected against the impacts of climate change, no one is safe from climate change. And I think we're finally seeing that as these climate havens are being picked off one by one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're seeing it. And yet I'm not seeing it on mainstream news. I'm not hearing it reported. Anything I hear about the climate crisis is because I'm on social media and it's in my algorithm. Can you tell us what's going on there?
Yeah.
Or what's not going on there?
I am maybe making some news here, but my story is going to be part of a documentary, and I wanted to be more than just my story, because it's the silencing of meteorologists, of other journalists, from telling the truth about what's happening. And that's the point we are at right now, where you have stations that are now conglomerates that are owned by just a handful of station ownership groups, that have advertisers that are directly tied to the fossil fuel industry, that are literally helping editorialize what's happening in the news. And if you look at mainstream news channels, ABC, CBS, NBC, the amount of coverage has gone down 3 years in a row as our weather has turned more and more extreme. So there is a clear direction that we are headed when it comes to media coverage, and it's going the wrong way. It's the wrong direction. We're seeing less and less of it being covered. But it just, at the end of the day, who's running these news stations, who is paying for the advertising, and I mean, you look what's happening at CBS, and that's truly a horror story. They completely dismantled their climate team. The person who ran and operated the Free Press is now in charge of day-to-day operations at CBS. And you can see how that has changed with their climate coverage. It's wild.
What is the end goal? Is it just they don't want us paying attention so that nothing changes, and then we all what do we think the end goal is here? Why do they not want us focusing on this? Who is it benefiting? Is it just this small percentage of people who are profiting off of it? And that's truly what it all boils down to?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that, to your point, Lauren, so few people benefit from this, but yet we are just, I mean, investing so much into these handful of people that are doing so many bad things to our climate and our environment. And we're justifying everything they do. So much to the fact that if they want us to avoid talking about climate change, our news managers will say, you know what, we don't want you talking about it, or don't use the term climate change because it's being polarized. I mean, they are so terrified that their trillions of dollars of assets will become stranded assets. At the end of the day, that's what this all boils down to. They are deathly afraid of losing all of that money. And then their shareholders, their boards will be obviously up in arms. So that is, I think, what is driving a lot of this.
But isn't that so short-sighted? I mean, we have one planet that we can live on as that we know of at this point.
Yeah, it is. And you know, you see some of the ways that they're trying to make good on it, but it's kind of funny. I just learned this the other day in the process of this documentary. I think it was maybe ExxonMobil that was spending time on researching biofuels. But they actually spent more on the advertisements and the publicity that they were trying to work with biofuels than they actually spent on the researching alternatives to fossil fuels. Like, that is so telling right there, right? So they're spending more on tooting their own horn than they are on the alternatives to what they've been selling for decades. So I don't know. I don't know when we hit that point of, you know, that holy shit moment of we need to be doing more than we're doing.
But hey, as long as the shareholders are happy, then like,
Right.
It's a small price to pay.
Yeah. Can you talk about that greenwashing? Because I know, Lauren and I both run households. We both we recycle. We make sure that we're using recyclables, and we put our plastic in the right bin, and the glass in the right bin, and the paper in the right bin. But it doesn't
compost.
sound. Lauren, I don't even compost. Do we keep doing those things? Do we start screaming in the streets? I think you're so right when you say it's impacting everyone at this point, and I think everybody knows it, right? It's like, it's the thing that's happening in the room that everyone's like, oh, everything's on fire. We kind of should talk about it. The bills are going crazy. The water's being sucked up by data centers. Do we need to put aside the recycling that we're doing to get out in the streets and start screaming? Like, what can the average person do? Like, right now, Lauren's on this march doing something, her small part. What's the small/big part that people can be doing right now? Because it seems like it's only, we're at a point where everybody needs to be climate defiant and storming shareholders meetings and throwing chairs over.
I think that is what we should be doing. You know, even the small things that we're doing day to day are still important. I'm not telling you to stop doing those things. Composting, recycling, that's obviously critical. But at the end of the day, you really have to show up and demand change. And, you know, I have talked to a lot of people who donate a lot to political candidates that they think are going to make a big difference when they get elected into Congress or, even in state government. But at the end of the day, if you take that money and you fund an organization or a nonprofit that's actually showing up and doing that work, I can guarantee you that money will make a bigger difference by supporting independent journalists that are actually doing this work than a politician that you're giving $2,500 to, where it doesn't really matter to them. I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to find a way to run. They're going to find a way to get elected. But for these organizations that are doing the work, amplifying their work and helping support them is, I think, one way that we can meaningfully take collective action. And if you don't have the money to do it, then, share, repost these people that are actually getting the truth out there. Because at the end of the day, journalism 101 is, the who, what, where, when, and why. And so many mainstream outlets are leaving out the why. And that's just wrong. And until we find a way to get the truth out there, we are not going to make progress.
It reminds me of that movie, Don't Look Up. but from a not an asteroid coming at us, but the climate. Don't look at it. Don't pay attention to it, because once you start looking at it, you can't unsee it, and you can't not be disturbed by it to a pretty extreme degree. And I think something that Maya and I talk about a lot is that people are very comfortable going to brunch and not paying attention to what's happening around them. But once you start paying attention, you can't unsee it, and you have to do something. You can't just go to brunch and do nothing.
It's interesting that you absolutely. It's interesting that you brought up Don't Look Up, because that's sort of how Chris and I came together to work together.
Really?
So Adam McKay, who is was he also the writer director of Don't Look Up, or
He
just
was,
producer?
yeah.
Writer director, has a climate climate change studio called Yellow Dot, and Chris and I co-anchored a pilot called The Climate Report. And the idea is that we were going to be informing people in an engaging way on a regular basis about what was going on in the climate. And unfortunately, that project did not end up getting picked up. But the need, Chris, is still there.
And it's funny because he had, for a network to pick this up, he said that they would have to agree to never take funding from any of the fossil fuel countries. And I think the sad part is that was the non-starter for so many of the streamers, for any of the networks. They didn't want to do that. I mean, the product was awesome, not patting ourselves on the back, but it was pretty cool. It was awesome. It was really good.
I think coming into it, I was just like I'm a communicator, and I help maybe translate some of this information, but you were the person with the knowledge. And I think what I learned then, which was over 2 years ago, was so frightening that it is understanding how this information can be paralyzing for people. But by just staying still, it's like that frozenness at the end of the movie, and everyone's just like, with the meteor coming towards us, and so, or asteroid or whatever it is in the movie. So what I would like to see is, as everybody knows, this show is supposed to be like a dystopian morning show, is that, Chris, you come on a regular basis and you tell us what the hell's going on with the climate. If the mainstream media isn't going to come on and tell us every week or on a regular basis, hey, what's underwater this week? Hey, what tornado hit something this week? What country's on fire this week? I would love for you to come and give us a bit of the weather, the dystopian weather.
I will be here.
Dystopian weather. We need to come up with a fun little catchphrase for it. Like, this segment needs something funny and snarky, so we need to offline and get our creative hats on.
Yeah, so everybody, please, when you watch this, drop in the comments what you think that Chris's segment should be, because I think we'll be the only morning show that talks about the climate crisis. So we're going to have to just blow this up on our own and get more eyeballs on this on our own, and have our little clippy clips, since apparently nobody watches anything full length anymore. They just watch clips.
90 seconds. Get it in, get it out.
Where is our attention span, people?
Everyone
Chris,
has ADHD.
We truly all do. Is there any, because it's so hot, I can't think. Like, I'm always like, I'm so hot, I don't know if it's a hot flash or if it is the climate. Is there anything that's going on this week, other than the wildfires in Spokane, that we need to know about worldwide that might shock people?
Yeah, so I think there's another big round of heat coming up across parts of Europe. This is, I think, the 4th or 5th, I've lost count, heat wave, which will likely result in the loss of life of thousands of more people, because it really is a part of Europe that is not equipped for this kind of heat. Records that we've never seen before being broken across Europe, across the UK, in particular in France. So I think that will be a big headline coming up this week. We're seeing some flooding.
What kind of temps are we talking about? Like, what kind of records? How high?
So 45 degrees Celsius. We're talking well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is I mean, gobsmacking, like how crazy that is for Europe. So that is big. We expect to have big time heat too across parts of the Southwest. One thing that has not even been in the headlines at all, which is mind blowing to me as well, that the Southwest, the hottest part of this country, has recorded the hottest January through the end of July in recorded history. Never made a single headline. And the deaths in Maricopa County are also outpacing any year in history as well, that they've kept track of heat-related deaths. So deadly heat across Europe, deadly heat across the Southwest, deadly floods across the mid-Atlantic again. That's happening today and ongoing probably into the day tomorrow. And then suffocating smoke across parts of the Northwest as that smoke plume actually envelops much more of the country as the upper level winds are a little bit more favorable to transport that smoke across parts of the U.S. And I think it'll be as apocalyptic as it was a couple of weeks ago when it was that orange tint in the sky and you needed your headlights on in the middle of the day. Like that's the kind of smoke we may see across parts of the country again in the next couple of weeks as these fires continue to burn.
Yeah, this is insane. It's all insane. We can just say that, right? That this is freaking insane.
Insane.
Like, we shouldn't have to live like this. Our kids shouldn't have to have this future to look forward to. We absolutely have to do something about it. And that starts by communicating on a regular basis what is going on. So, Chris, I can't wait to have you back. I really, every week, y'all, we're going to make this a thing. We're going to have segments. We'll give you the full screen. We'll just drop off. Lauren and I don't even need to be here because you're going to need the full screen to talk about the things. And then we'll ask you questions about it. So thank you so much for your time, because I know that it is valuable because you're one of the few people who are fighting for us. So we appreciate you for dropping in, and we'll see you soon.
And thank you both for doing the work. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Safe travels, Lauren.
Thanks, good.